Man, that always makes me feel good. It's Friday night. It's time for Explain Yourself. It is the Kickstarter, but we're going to say crowdfunding roundtable tonight because we have a surprise. Not everyone here is a Kickstarter creator this evening. Really excited. Will, how are you doing this week?
Not freezing yet, but I'm getting by. Huh?
Yeah, everybody north and east is, I know you guys are having some trouble. So, hey, we had it down here, Fort Lauderdale. We had to worry about whether we wore socks in the house. So we were pretty cold too. We understand what you're going through. We dare this week to ask, can there be too much awesome? We have a slurry of great projects, and we're going to get into them. We have two creators from the Adept. Charlie, can you introduce us to the elevator pitch of the Adept?
Sure. I mean, quickly, the Adept is about a young woman named Amy who comes from a really screwed up childhood, and she's been, estranged from her sister. And one of the reasons why she's been estranged is she's been having dreams of being trained by this kung fu master, and she's not sure if she's going crazy or she's really being trained by this master. And then the dreams stop, and she slowly starts rebuilding her life, trying to reconnect with her sister. And just as they're starting to make some headway, there's this crazy attack at a stadium at a concert where she's there with her sister. And in the middle of all of this person from her dreams shows up on stage, and he's fighting, the possible terrorists, and he's there. And all of a sudden the answers as to whether she really knows kung fu, whether she's really been trained, or whether she's really just been going insane are right there in front of her. And that's where the Adept opens, and we go forward from there, following Amy and her journey, figuring out who she's going to be and what path she's going to take.
All right, and your crowdfunding issue, the second issue,
Number
but
2.
you can catch up and get both issues with this campaign, correct?
Yeah, it's part of a whole universe of things that Peter is going to talk about in a little bit.
All right. We also have Matt Mayer-Lowry. Matt, you are here with ThoughtScape, and if someone was walking past your booth at a show, how would you introduce ThoughtScape?
I would introduce it as a sort of a sci-fi anthology in the tradition of like 2000 AD in the Twilight Zone. Dark Horse Presents, if they were a deep cut comics person, and a little bit of Black Mirror. And the stories are all written by me, and the art is by a sort of revolving group of creators.
Well, let's get into thoughts.
What's that?
I said I'm sold.
Yeah, awesome.
Black Mirror and Twilight Zone, give me a break.
Yes, it's
the only thing I'm mad at is he took away my gosh, this reminded me of Twilight Zone and 2000 AD. Did that have any inspiration for you? So obviously I gleaned what you're going
Sweet.
For. Let's hit that real quick. We're going to go into ThoughtScape. I read the first 2 issues, and these are interesting, crazy, and this is after hours, so I can say it. These are mind fucks.
Cool. I've gotten that a few times, so I'm totally down with the mind fucking, I guess. That's
where did your universe of this well, take us through what the ThoughtScape is and where these stories come from.
Sure. So basically the stories themselves sort of started organically. Like I was writing, I decided I wanted to get into writing short stories. I'd started out writing like at the graphic novel length level, and kind of doing it backwards, right? Everybody tells you in comics to start with short stories and then work up from there, but I decided not to do that. And so I was getting into that. These stories were going, and I realized they shared a lot of themes like tech. I was watching a lot of Twilight Zone sort of as coming to it late in life and really enjoying it. So I was heavily influenced by that. I also was diving hard into 2000 AD. And so basically I had these short stories. They had these shared themes, sort of in the vein of stuff I grew up loving, like Blade Runner and Alien. There's a kind of a company that kept showing up in these things. And so I realized that I could knit them all together in a real loose way where it would be way more about the reader making the connections between things than it would be necessarily like a explicitly shared universe. So the ThoughtScape itself sort of became this wrapper concept where there's a company within this universe that has figured out how to access a fifth dimension, nod to the Twilight Zone, where every thought that has ever been thought exists. And so basically they figured out how to access this and to go in and pull stories and entire like thought lives of people out of the ThoughtScape and mine it for IP and product ideas and all this kind of stuff. So basically, an extension of the corporate greed going out and actually taking our thoughts and making money off them. So that's pretty much the packaging around each issue is sort of like each issue is a dispatch from the group that mines the ThoughtScape for R&D purposes and for developing entertainment for this company. And it's that sort of container story is set in the far future. So basically it gives us a big breadth of both like genre, time, and everything to play with. So we've got stories that take place in the far future but not quite as far as the container story. I have a story completed that takes place like in the 40s, sort of a film noir thing. So it's basically like it served a good purpose of letting me write in any kind of story that I wanted and fit it into this world, as long as it's sort of loosely in that mind fucky so yeah.
I'm going to pull up, I kind of teased this a little bit. I'm going to pull up the Zoop page for your campaign. You're running your crowdfunding on Zoop. That is comic centric. How has the experience been working with the Zoop team?
It's been great. They've been super helpful, extremely responsive, which is something that I really value. And I've just been impressed with them since I started paying attention to them back in the fall, I guess. And so, I basically decided to take it there and see what we could do. And so it's Jordan and Eric there who I've been working with. And basically I'm doing, so the Zoop has two sort of package levels, I guess, as far as the creator is concerned. It's got a self-service thing, which is what I'm doing.
Okay.
Although they are helping me a lot. I will say because the platform is still sort of manual at this point. They ended up taking it with the stuff that happened with Kickstarter in December. They ended up going broader with the self-service model while the platform was still manual ahead of what they had scheduled. So basically, updates are manual, that kind of stuff. But so it's been great that they've been good to work with because we've been working pretty closely to put the page together, do the updates to the backers and whatnot. And it's been good. It's mostly, there have not been a ton of campaigns yet on Zoop, and before that, all their campaigns were, I don't know if I know the proper term for what they were, but they were basically running the campaign for
curated, maybe.
Yeah. So they were their previous, or the other model is creators going to them and they run the entire campaign for them, including marketing and fulfillment and all that stuff. So but it's been good so far. And it's mostly a matter of, just a younger platform and, a little bit, the discoverability and stuff is less obviously than Kickstarter because there's not people just on there, ready to back as happens on Kickstarter.
Well, we did a test. Will, how long did it take you to back ThoughtScape when you went on Zoop as somebody who'd never been on the website?
Like 90 seconds to set up my account and then hit back. And then, if you have your credit card saved, which is not a good thing. I really don't recommend people do that. But I had it saved. So you click and it's done.
So
you spend money.
Yeah.
It's very user-friendly in that way. I want more crowdfunding. I want options. I want Kickstarter to continue killing it. And I want Zoop to grow. And, I want all of us to have as many options as we can, because we never know what's going to happen in the future.
100%. Yeah.
I have a question on how you put the scripts together for the different art teams, and I'm glad you have this laid out this way. So Adorable Orphans has a very classic layout, and then Ex Post Facto was very experimental and trippy. So do you write everything for an artist and they get to do whatever they want? Did you want those to be slightly different looks and feels? How do you work with each individual artist?
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason I wanted to do the short story thing was, working on a graphic novel, you work with one person for 200 pages. And in my case, I'd worked with Cassie Anderson, who's amazing, on a book called Lifeform, and we'd done 2 volumes. So that was like 400 pages with one artist. And I really wanted to get a lot of experience working with different folks and working in different tones and styles than I had done. And so, I intentionally sort of set out to make something where story to story, it would be really different. And there'd be a lot of variety, if not in my writing, but hopefully there too, in the art. And so it's hard because I've now written like multiple scripts for Carl, who does Ex Post Facto. So now that we have a pattern, and like, I know my scripts can read a little crazy if I give them to Carl, and he'll totally get it. I would say the Adorable Orphans was pretty, I wasn't sure who was going to draw that when I first conceived of the idea. So it was probably a pretty standard script, without a lot of variance. We've got a lot of I think there's like 16 panel grids and on a few spreads in there. So it was pretty prescribed. And then Lisa came in and did her amazing sort of pop art, old school cartooning approach to it, which was awesome. I think part of the challenge is definitely writing for the artist, and that's part of the fun. And like Tyrell Cannon's got a story in both issues. And on the one where the second one we did, and I knew what to expect from Tyrell, which was blowing anything I gave him out of the water. I basically just wrote like a couple sentences for what needed to happen on the page, and he just went off and did his action mayhemness. So it's a fun challenge, and it's definitely, I guess, tailored to whoever I'm working with, and with the goal of variety, though, for sure.
Well, go ahead.
Speaking of who you're working with, can you give us the full art team, lettering, color? I mean, everybody on the book?
Yeah, totally. Forgive me here. I'm going to look at a list just so I don't make sure I don't leave anybody out, because there's a lot of people. In the campaign, you can get it's kind of it's to basically print and ship the second issue, but you can pick up the first. So the first one had Jenna Cha on the cover or doing the cover. Dave Law is on art on both issues. We have like an ongoing series that runs through the ThoughtScape. Tyrell Cannon has a story in each issue. Those are standalone. Lisa Nafziger did Adorable Orphans. Carl Slominski does Ex Post Facto. And then in issue 2.
That dude can sling ink like a motherfucker.
Oh, dude, he's amazing. I just kind of draw, like, now my scripts are just like stuff I want to see Carl draw, and I just figure out how to make it work in the story. Like, I kind of, it's I guess I'm paying out of my own pocket. I may as well just get cool Carl art, right? So the second issue has Grim Wilkins art on the cover, and then it's basically the additional art team there is Jacob Edgar, who's just did some stuff with Brian Bendis, and
who?
Yeah, exactly. Who's that? And is doing stuff for DC and now in general. And then Leslie Atlansky did colors on the story that Jacob did the pencils and inks on. And I think that's it. And then I sucked a writer friend of mine, George Pendle, in to write some of the front and back matter for for the second issue. And George wrote a book about Jack Parsons, that was one of the founders of NASA and also an occultist that was turned into a CBS TV show a while back. So George and I have connected over that book, and he actually loved comics, so we got to talking, and he added him to the team. So yeah, it's fun. It's kind of like nice to have a lot of folks and a little bit of community around the book.
Well, I want to say I'm not going to give anything away, but one of the short stories in ThoughtScape 2 made me cry, fooled me, made me think about philosophy, and made me respect the hell out of you.
Nice.
So
well, thank you. That's great to hear.
You probably know, and like it was kind of like 2 pages did the one, 3 panels did the other. 2 panels did, and I was like, "Holy shit! I've been on this roller coaster in a short story." And much respect, and we're gonna get back to it. But
sweet,
we've got the founder of Immortal Studios, so we've got to Peter. Can you do me a favor? We're gonna talk about the Adept in depth, but can you give me a little history of how Immortal Studios came together?
That's kind of a long question, Kevin, because I grew up in the genre known as the wuxia genre, the martial arts fantasy genre. So I kind of was born into it because my father was one of the top creators. So you could say I was born in this kind of family, and it's it's actually my family business if you think about it. So It feels like in retrospect, it's something that has been happening for all of my life. But I didn't happen upon it until a few years ago.
Okay.
And it started with, because I've been this major enthusiast of the genre. And one of the interesting things that happened in my life was I was actually asked by the head of the Shaolin Temple. So for those of you who like the genre, you know that Kung Fu actually it's known to have started at this temple called the Shaolin Temple. So it's not an overstatement. This is where karate, this is where all the martial arts forms actually comes from the Shaolin Temple. And the Shaolin Temple is also the birthplace of Zen Buddhism. So it's kind of a big deal. And this is where David Carradine from Kung Fu comes from. This is where Bruce Lee comes from. It's like all of them. This is where Jet Li got his start. This is the 36 Chambers of Shaolin. We're talking like but there is a real Shaolin Temple. And I was asked by the abbot of the Shaolin Temple if I could help deliver the Shaolin message to the world. So I undertook that as kind of a Shaolin ambassador. And by the time we were done, we did museum exhibits. The Shaolin books were accepted by the Library of Congress. We did a reality show and went around the world and met like hundreds of thousands of the best martial artists. We did movies, games, and so I was always unhappy with the pop cultural portrayal of Shaolin versus this real institution that was there. And somewhere in my mind, I always wanted to tell the real Shaolin story. And the real Shaolin story is far more extraordinary than one can even imagine. So it was having this desire and this input. And when it came time to build this interconnected wuxia fantasy universe, I thought it was appropriate to start it with Shaolin, where kind of part of the pop cultural legend began. And I've been walking around with this idea of a young girl who encounters the master in her dreams. And then these set pieces would come. And then I was fortunate enough to run into Charlie at the LA Comic-Con a few years ago, because I've been wanting to do something that connected these ideas directly to fans as opposed to going through filtered platforms. So I'm a Web3 person in that. Okay. I mean, this is the genesis of all these things coming together. And one of the things that I'm here to do, because Charlie is such a great writer, such a, and his co-writer, Tasha, whom he and I recruited together, is an extraordinary writer. She's already writing for movies and television. So it was the beginning of an idea with great execution, and Charlie just added some really, really amazing elements. He became our mentor to Kickstarter. And Tasha really filling me in, and she really became almost like the mouthpiece as Amy and as a biracial Chinese American creator that she is. So it was this combination of things that kind of created the magic of the Adept 1 Kickstarter campaign, where more than 1,200 fans rallied behind us and gave us more than $35,000 in our first inaugural campaign to kick the project off. And so really, first of all, I just wanted to come back and acknowledge our amazing team. And, our artist, Yishan, is extraordinary. Like, we wanted to go for a hybrid look that was had a real pop sensibility that really also leaned into kind of the anime influences while doing things authentically. We even brought on a Shaolin martial arts master to make sure that everything that we did on screen was something that we can stand behind, and we can live up to this initial goal of representing real Shaolin, where Kung Fu comes from. It's pretty serious business for me, It's like,
yeah. Well, if you were asked by, the actual Shaolin Temple to bring them to the world, that's a hell of a responsibility. So, I mean,
it is. And you know what? Here's a great story. One of the things I did as the president of the Shaolin Association, that was my formal role, in addition to being a partner on the content side, was I hosted something 11 years ago here in LA called the Shaolin Summit. So because the abbot was attending, he was personally helping me with the effort, we got every major Shaolin martial artist to come and demonstrate. So we had like 5,000 people at this event, and everybody came, and we had the best display of martial arts on that stage. And then I quickly misplaced the video, and it just went missing. I just found it 3 hours ago in my garage.
Oh, nice.
That's exciting.
So it's like a full circle of sorts. Like, look, I've done extraordinary things with the Shaolin Temple. I've actually gone and meditated in the cave where Bodhidharma allegedly meditated for 9 years. I've traveled the world with Shaolin masters, and I've seen the kind of legendary things that they've done that they're still inexplicable to me right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a lot of fanciful. I really want to convey those experiences and the reality of that extraordinary tradition that is known to create superhumans. And that's the journey that this broken young woman, Amy, she doesn't believe she has what it takes. She doubts herself because she comes from this broken, addictive family with all the kind of psychological patterns that many of us struggle with. So it's really her, a broken person, coming across with these teachings, and then she becomes the hero that she never thought she would be, and ends up saving the day in a way she never would expect. And we were just but how she gets there and how she becomes the hero is the secret sauce of Shaolin.
All right, I'm gonna pick up the page, and we're gonna look at the Kickstarter page. But before we do that, we actually have two other creators who are gonna join us. Kat and Phil, how are you this evening? Quiet. You're very quiet this evening.
We're so quiet, but we're in the same room.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It's always a joy to have you, and having you in one screen actually works a lot better, because I don't know where the seventh screen would have gone. But
yeah, no, I'm glad we went this route. Is actually our full plan. That's why we're such divas, and that's why we're so late.
Well, welcome. We are going to get into your projects, but we're going to go check out the Adepts page real quick. So I asked, after the thing, you can get both issues 1 and 2 as a catch-up if you haven't. Get down. Oops. It looks
so
like...
Can I interject a little, because I'm actually tracking? I would like to invite the people who are watching to show us a little love, so we kind of feel you out there for any one of our campaigns. But since we're on the Adept right now, just an invitation for you guys to pitch in and support this campaign and everybody else's.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we did say this before, Will and I take credit for every backer for the next 19 days to come on the Adept. Every dollar over 16,174 we take credit for. Like, we don't expect a penny. We don't want money, but we do take credit. So that is just our warning.
Peter and Charlie, is the Adept planned as an ongoing series? Is there a a planned ending to this? What's the scoop there?
Well, I mean, it's a planned universe. So the first arc of the Adept is basically 4 of these oversized issues that are in the process of being scripted and drawn right now. And this issue is completely done, 1 for 2, and like the first 2 issues both were 40 and then 42 pages. So we're building an arc, but there's also several other series that are going. We did the first issue of the Chronicle of the Immortal Swordsman came out last year. I'm not going to break any news about some of the other things that might be coming soon, but there's a whole, it's a universe that's being built, and we're building it on Kickstarter. And and every single book, I mean, like, you look at Yishan's art, which is just incredible. Yeah. And I've been very fortunate because I'm incredibly spoiled because I've gotten to work with Connor Hughes on some of my projects. I've gotten to work with Yishan Lee, Romana Morinelli. Like, I just get to work with these incredible artists who always make me look so much better. And I think that's, what we all as writers aspire to, finding artists that make us look better. And, I've been blessed in the comic book world to get to work with people like this who can not only tell a story, but can create beautiful images.
Yeah, this page is extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And she's also so fast compared to other artists I worked with. I mean, she's just not to throw anyone under the bus, but like Yishan is
for us.
she is next level fast compared to most comic book artists.
And just look at her posture, her movements, exactly how she holds her hands, even the biodynamics of her postures. Those are the things that we pay a lot of attention to, because a lot of our supporters actually are real martial artists. And before we started this, we wanted to make sure that this is something that they could look and say, wow, these guys know their blank,
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's really too, because like
so Charlie, do you know your kung fu shit?
I know. Once again, you find people who make you look good. So we, like, when Peter says, we do have someone choreographing the actual fight scenes who works with Yishan to make sure every pose is a real pose and find the right ones for different movements and things like that are intrinsic to both the emotion of the character and what would be necessary in that moment in a fight. So I think that's completely
different. Back? I want to talk about this amazing cover that Jim Chung did for us. The
variant covers you guys have are absolutely beautiful.
Like our variant covers just really showed up. This is Jim Chung's piece. Extraordinary.
Yeah.
And I think you have one by Gene Ha as well.
We do have the Gene Ha one. I want to give the prop. This is Ming Doyle, and this is the Gene Ha piece, which I thought was just transcendent. Like, this is a really special piece. Like, I'm ordering one for myself so I could blow it up and put it on the wall. But to answer an earlier question, Immortal, we're planning a total of 8 different stories, including the Adept and Chronicles of the Immortal Swordsman this year. So we have really, really aggressive plans. And again, just thank you to our community who enabled us to do it. As a young, scrappy company, we do rely on these resources so that we could actually turn out these stories. And everybody's doing all the support that we get immediately goes into production so that we can bring more stories. So this year we're expecting a total of 8 stories. And this is an interconnected, we call it a storyverse. In tech, they're going to see that we're really also building the Immortal metaverse.
If somebody missed
on Kickstarter, could say that they were there first.
Yeah. If somebody missed the Immortal Swordsman, can they pick up that in the Adept campaign?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Beautiful.
And I also wrote I wrote that particular story, so I can honestly say that I've joined the ranks, and Charlie again was one of my teachers.
Well, Patrick Lugo says he's already a backer, Peter. Shaolin, Woolen, Wood. Now, so we can't take credit for Patrick. He came before us. We're not unfair.
Oh my God.
We're a little.
Yeah,
unfair.
Jing's my favorite. Yeah, Jing Ching, exactly. So look, some of these folks know. So I think they might have been at the Shaolin Summit, just telling everybody some extraordinary, never before seen footage is on its way to you, and to say thank you to our community.
Well, and I'll just quickly wrap up. What Peter is saying. He's learned something from me. I've learned so much about this universe from him, and I love that. What we're doing in Immortal, we're all a team working together, which is also the same thing about crowdfunding. The reason it works for comics is because there are all of us here right now, and everyone here has amazing projects. Matt, I will say this. When you're talking about the Zoop, getting people on Zoop. I'm one of those people who's been promoting your project, but I haven't made the time to make a Zoop account to pledge yet. Right? It's like I backed the first one on Kickstarter because it's easy for me. I push a button, and I know it's 90 seconds, but it's still 90 seconds. So I'm hoping you're going to get a lot of people who are going to be like, I'm going to do it. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. So I've written that down for me. I'm going to do that, tonight. But I always back Kat and Phil. I love everything that you do, and that's just it's about community. It's what we're doing, at Immortal. We're creating, learning from each other, creating amazing stories together. And I just love being here tonight with, all these creators I really respect. And if there's anyone in the chat who hasn't backed all of these projects, do yourself a favor, do that now, because these are all great books and great people to support.
Yeah, I've been able to read at least issue 1 of every book we're doing tonight, and they are all really good projects to hop on. Will and I don't bring people on if we don't like their books or really like them.
Or both.
Or both.
It's usually both. It's usually both. But if you're, how can I say this? I'm not going to waste anybody's time coming on here if I don't think the book is really worthy of finding an audience. And as I said at the beginning, can there be too much awesome? We have 4 really awesome projects tonight. So we're going to get back to the Adept, but I think we're going to go to the Dancer. I think we're going to stick with the theme here. And Kat, you didn't get to do your 30-second intro. So why don't you do that and then go straight into the in-depth Dancer talk?
Yeah, of course. So the Dancer is about a dancer/assassin. And when she was little, she witnessed her parents being murdered in front of her and never dealt with that trauma until now. So what is the Dancer? The reason I made this book, I actually made this book a while ago. So it's been done for a while. It's just been our crazy schedule has not allowed for all the issues to be released because we always have a Kickstarter going on. We still have 2 more issues left of the Dancer. This technically was actually released in black and white through the con circuit. So now this is in color, and it's a mini series that's going to completely wrap up. So that's something. Interestingly, when I did a lot of interviews through my journalism work, one question I would always ask if I was interviewing for a mini series, I'd be like, "Oh, and would you want to make a sequel?" And if I got that question, I would say. Usually no, right? I would say no on this regard because I feel like it's a story with an ending, and that's something you don't normally get in comics. So that's something I really wanted to stay true with this book. But yeah, the reason I made it is it was actually when I was in college. I was inspired by my past of being a dancer and martial artist. I got a black belt in Taekwondo. I will not say I'm a good dancer, but I did dance for about 7 years. And then I noticed going to a liberal arts college just how similar they were. And I remember the moment that it sparked was when I was watching, out of any movie, Kingsman. So I had the opportunity to interview Matthew Vaughn for the movie. And I remember one of the questions that kind of popped up was like, would you want to make a musical? And then, because wouldn't that be fun with the hit girl type scenes and Kick-Ass and just how musically influenced his fighting choreography is. And that really put the pieces together for me. I'm like, wait, martial arts and dance are so similar. I never noticed that when I was both doing them, especially from Taekwondo. When you get a belt, you do a form. So that's how there's other things to do too, but that's a big thing is to do your form. And that's pretty much like a dance move. It's like it's choreography with punches. And I was like, oh, that's super interesting. Let's like put that into a book, which is The Dancer. And you know, I wanted a spin of like, how about Batman dealt with this trauma? So this is a story. You know, when you look at it, you think it's going to be a physical book. You think it's going to be, okay, this dancer, martial artist, we're going to see a lot of dance, a lot of martial arts. I'm not saying you don't, but it's really a book about mental health, and it's a book about dealing with your trauma. So that's something I'm super proud of.
I really felt that you get into that in issue 2. I mean, it's there as subtext in issue 1, but no doubt about it. But issue 2 is very much introspective, and your lead character is dealing with things that she's ignored for what, 5-10 years.
Oh yeah, she's like 22.
So I thought it was a very interesting psychological take on the quote unquote vigilante assassin character.
Thank you. Yeah.
So 4 issues, we're done. You're never coming back to The Dancer. That's a guarantee.
I can't guarantee anything because these Kickstarters have been doing well. But I would say that was my point of the story. And if we ever did go back, it'd be a very different angle. It wouldn't be what you expect.
I think Amy and The Dancer maybe can team up on something.
Oh, I like this idea. I like this conversation where it's going.
I want to say this. If I say Mia on the Adept or Amy on the Dancer, it's because I read both in the same 24-hour period. So it's an apology, but a lot of the letters are the same.
Yeah.
And there are some.
They share 2 of them.
Yeah, they share 2 of them. We actually did that on purpose. We planned it.
You know what? You always want to, get into Charlie's draft. Whatever you can do with Charlie, you just want to draft behind him.
Oh, for sure.
And then a big eyeball flies by, and now we're in the Twilight Zone.
Yes.
That works.
But by the way, Matt, I am now a Zoop member. Just even during this conversation, and that campaign's now back. So if anyone hasn't started a Zoop account, you can do it very quickly. I will.
We were literally just talking about that because, like, sadly, I wish we were here for all the Zoop stuff. We were actually doing buy visibility stuff, and we're like, oh yeah, 11:30. We have so much time. We're like. And then we're like, oh, it was 11. Oh, God. So, but the Zoop, we didn't know you had to make an account. So that's interesting. But we should have thought that because with Kickstarter, you pretty much have to make an account, which I think you could be a guest, but they make it pretty hard to do it.
Yeah, I did it about a month ago. I remembered it being less than 5 minutes. Will said 90 seconds altogether. Charlie did it while he was in part of a conversation. So I'll give Zoop this. They make it easy.
Yeah. Well, it's only because I had Apple Pay. So I didn't have to enter credit card information and do all that stuff at the end.
Wait, is Zoop like a sponsor here tonight? Because they're getting a lot of
Yeah, you know what?
All the money from them.
We give Kickstarter our full attention every week. So it's like, like there's a new kid in town. Yeah. Well, okay, so the Dancer
whoever allows for concurrent campaigns will get some of the Immortal business moving forward.
Yeah.
Yes,
what we want is a bunch of strong, fertilized places for creators to go find the right home for them. And if that's Kickstarter, awesome. If it's Zoop, awesome. If it's something new, if it's Indiegogo, whatever feels right for you and your project, we're happy with, and we want to push it. But we also greedily and selfishly, we want safe pastures here, there, and everywhere in case something happens, because there are a whole bunch of people who were kings of MySpace. And
Looking at them.
Oh, were you a king of MySpace?
No.
Did you learn HTML just for it?
Oh, yeah. We all did.
We all did.
So we want to fertilize Zoop in case at any point we have to go elsewhere. But we still love Kickstarter, and that's definitely not nothing that we're against. So they can catch up on the Dancer and get issue 1 if they miss the first campaign?
They definitely can. And we actually have places where you can get the whole cat collection and Phil collection too. But we have Slice of Life on there. We have Buy Visibility. We have All Like Fall Like Daughter. We have Dancer issue 1, issue 2. We have it in black and white. Yeah, we got it all. Don't worry, guys. If you want it, it's there.
Well, thank you for reminding me. I read the Dancer #1 in black and white, and then I just saw issues 1 and 2 in color. Who is your art team? who's your illustrator, and who brought the colors to the project?
So the illustrator is Evie Cantata, who did all of the pencils for issues 1 through 4. And again, I'm still trying to decide if I want to do issue 3 and 4 as black and white. It's interesting because on Kickstarter, it sells okay, but at cons, it sells sometimes better than the colors.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who like manga who very much go for a black and white book.
So it's something to think about for the future, because issue 1 and 2, I just had it beforehand because I didn't know if I wanted to make it color. But the colorist is Danny. I would pronounce their full name, but it is long and I don't want to butcher it. So look on the Kickstarter page. It is Danny. It's his first name. And then we had the shared lettering of Matt Bowers, who did some of the lettering, and then some of the graphic design was Brant Fowler.
Okay.
So.
Cool.
Okay, so you got Kaylin for a variant cover. Gorgeous,
Yeah.
as usual. It's almost boring how wonderful her art always is.
Right? You wish you could say something even, more unique, but we're just like, oh, it's amazing. It's gorgeous.
That's not bad either, actually. This is who did this one? I was going to really mispronounce this name, and then I realized it was the word stage left variant.
Well, their name is actually
Stage lefte.
Yes, it has a little tilde over it. His name is Cassio Rivero. Rivero is his last name.
He's making his round through all our books. He's done variants for The Dancer, Haunting, and Slice of Life.
I stole him from Phil.
Nice.
He's a Phil discovery.
And also the stained glass was a Phil discovery as well.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
So
we got it all on this page. We got our preview pages. We got variant covers. We have a metal cover this time around.
Nice.
So we want to do something for the Make 100. We have our foil covers. We got boxes, stickers. And they're boxes.
They are boxes.
The collector boxes.
Very cool.
Don't get it twisted.
I would never.
All right, here we are. We're going to see how hard this name is.
Look.
Danny
long name.
Fabricio Sanchez Chavez. That's not hard.
It's just, I wanted to know. I guess it wasn't hard to butcher it, but I guess it was just hard to remember it. But I should. I'm bad. I will. Next interview, I will do it right. I'll do it justice.
I'm going to get an angry email. You butchered Danny. It's Donna.
By The Dancer issue 3, I think you'll have it down.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Or at least issue 4. Maybe the trade. Maybe the sequel.
It looks like you had Brant. He's doing graphic design on it too.
Yeah, so he's doing the interior, like the credits, and then also we just some colors within the letters, so just to finesse it even more.
Cool.
All right. Now, to the unofficial member of your team, Phil, who has his own Kickstarter.
We're done.
But you guys are a great tandem where you guys kind of work together on projects and then crowdfund your own projects at the same time and then work together on a project. How did that come about? I know you guys have been longtime friends, but how did you guys strategize this?
Yeah, I mean, I've known Kat for how long? Probably
Since college.
Yeah, so
7 years. 7 years. It's been a long time.
Yeah, and I always knew that she was making her own comics and crowdfunding comics, and even though I was a lifelong comic fan and interested in comics, we never really talked about comics much for a while, until 2019-ish, when I said, hey, like I'm thinking about, I see that you are making like Father Like Daughter and The Dancer, and like I'm really interested, and I have a background in writing, so I wrote a script and I sent it to her, and she gave me some tips and helped me pull together like a tighter script. And
you met Honest Cat. She's a cool girl.
I met Honest Cat, also known as Blunt Cat, but it was good. It was good Cat. She was an okay girl. So I with her, like some advice she gave me, I launched my first Kickstarter, and it overperformed. It exceeded my expectations, and then since then, we're producing our own books independently. She was doing like Father Like Daughter and The Dancer. I was doing Haunting, and then one day, as a joke on Halloween of 2020, we were doing like a backyard style party because we were socially distancing at the time, and we just were joking around saying like, oh, it would be fun. What would happen if like Father Like Daughter and Haunting crossed over? And You know, it started out just like a joke here and there, like this character would do this to this character. And then after a few minutes, it stopped being a joke and, you know, came up with a plot that we really liked. So we sat down and we wrote it out together, and
It was so quick.
That was
like, wait, we should work together more because I've never written the script this quickly.
It was the easiest script we ever wrote, and it was really easy to divide and conquer because she handled her characters, I handled mine, and then whenever they got together, you know, we worked out the beats together, and then just whoever was more interested in that scene would write the scene out itself. And it turns out that something that even to our current projects rings true. We tend to like to write different, like very different things. So we very rarely fight over scenes, and I like to hurt my character's feelings a lot, and you like to do comedy about a bit more. Yeah, I like to have fun with them, and you like to hurt them. I like to. But the crossover was so easy, like to produce between the two of us, and we found we worked really well together that we decided we needed to do a new property, something that, you know, wasn't just a crossover of our respective properties, and that's where Slice of Life came in. That we were both fans of webtoons, and we're both queer, so we wanted to tell a queer story. And Slice of Life just, you know, came to life from there. And then obviously we're involved in each other's projects. You know, we strategize all the time, planning our respective campaigns, because we always want to keep our separate properties in addition to our properties together. Right. And, you know, we both are editors on By Visibility, which is Cat's baby, but we just had like a 7-hour strategy
and it's still
meeting.
Not done.
Oh, it's not done. After this, there's going to be at least some closing discussions before.
It was strategized to be 7.5 hours, and you realized you were late to this. So thank you.
Sorry again.
We are sorry about that. We probably shouldn't have planned a By Visibility meeting today, but we're like, we should do By Visibility today.
One of the rules.
Have Phil Sibling working on it as well, so it's now a Falco
a Falco
team.
extravaganza.
Yeah. Will and I tell everybody, come when you can come, leave when you have to leave. It's fine. We're not that big. So Phil, we're going to go on your page. We're going to look at the haunting. One thing before I get there, I want to say, you do not care if your lead character is likable. How the hell did you get that confidence?
I think it really boils down to the story I wanted to tell from the beginning was about an unlikable character. You know, I knew going in that I wanted you to almost respect how brazenly unlikable he is, and how little he cares about, you know, other people, and just marvel at his nonchalance at the insanity going on around him. So, you know, for anyone who doesn't know, the lead is a bratty teenage boy who, wherever he goes, the dead rise, and, you know, he's so inundated by it at this point. He's so used to it that he just, you know, turns a blind eye to it. He doesn't care.
Yeah, and your ghosts rise up angry and physically manifested and just murder people next to him, and he doesn't even look over.
Oh yeah, he just goes for a stroll.
I mean, when I read the first issue, I was just like, holy shit, man. And then by the end of it, I was like, all right, I'm on this vibe. And then I read issues 2 and I'm like, all right, I'm on this vibe. And then issue 3, I was like, all right, I'm on this train as long as Phil wants to take me. Our question is always, how long will the haunting go if you have your druthers?
Well, he said he's gonna not have a sequel, so
I don't think I would have a sequel when it ends, but you know,
it's going to be 182 issues, so it's different.
183. I have to stick an annual in there, you know. But yeah, I think with haunting, as opposed to a lot of our other projects, I try not to. I definitely know exactly what the ending will be, but I'm trying to, you know, let the ride go on as long as it makes sense to. You know, I have plans right now very firmly mapped out for 8 issues, and then it's just a matter of whether we reach that end point that I know where I'm building to at that point, or if there's more story to tell. So, you know, I wouldn't say right now it's going to be an 8-issue series. I wouldn't say it's going to be a 12-issue series. We'll see where it goes. As long as people are interested and I keep loving the story, I would love to keep telling the story as long as there's story to tell. And I genuinely, I just got some pages for issue 5 today. So we were crowdfunding issue 4 today. And, you know, I'm just so excited about every issue. I feel like I'm more excited for. As long as I have that feeling, I'd love to keep telling the story.
Who is the art team? Your ghosts, your spectral visions, whatever you call them, are so unique. I mean, they're obviously ghosts when you see them, but they seem new to me.
The colors. Really...
I think it's just the dream combination. We have Anna Wyschek as the artist. She does the lines, and she just has a, pun intended, haunting quality to her art that attracted me to it right away. You know, I think I think she does a great job with both action, and I'm glad that you go right to an action page as we say this. There's
the little shit.
There's a little shit getting the shit kicked out of him. But yeah, she does action great. She does emotion great, and most importantly, she does ghosts and zombies great. Mm-hmm. And then when you pair that with our colorist Andre Samboni, I just love the luminous effect he puts on the ghosts. That it's just they really pop out of the page. They really look like they don't belong in the setting around them, but like in a way that just pops out at you right off of the page. And then, major credit, of course, to our letterer. Just looking at the words right there, it has that same quality. He matches everything to a T. It's just I couldn't ask for a better creative team.
I think I saw, but just in case I was wrong, who's doing the lettering?
That would be Letter Squids.
Okay, I thought so. Yeah, when I first heard that name, I thought it was a studio of like 20 people. And
me too.
And I found out it's just this one guy who's just absolutely incredible.
He Letter Squids Justin, however he prefers to go by. He's not only does he always produce quality work, but he's so fast. We had him do all the logos for By Visibility, the first volume, and he breezed through the main logo for the series at 9 story logos in like a week
with like no corrections. We're like, oh, that's better than I would have imagined. That's amazing.
Wow.
My schedule for this issue, I was a little behind at first, and I gave Justin the pages to letter about a week before we launched, and he got it to me in like hours. So I could always count on him to come through for me in a pinch.
That's awesome.
Well, I mean, he goes by Letter Squid because he has 8 arms, right? Just to get the things done so quickly.
So Phil, we have a comment that I think comes back to a long-running joke for us.
Excel is oh yeah, okay. I'm never gonna live this one down, but I don't want to. Excel is
awesome. Here, let's give me. There you go.
Oh, yeah, you're getting 10 for Excel. Yeah, we were literally working in Excel sheets before we got on this call. I have so many Excel sheets open at any given time. I plan my whole life around it. Literally every aspect of my life. You could find an Excel sheet when I'm planning my mortgage payments. You can find Excel sheets for each comic project. Sometimes
bathroom trips.
Not yet.
I wanted to ask you a question, Phil. I wanted to ask you what your inspiration was to create your story. Like,
So I definitely, like I said earlier, was really interested in telling a story about just I feel like the archetypical hero in stories, especially in comics, which are so heavily superhero leaning a lot of the time. The story revolves around characters who are like paragons, who take on so much responsibility, who carry like the weight of the world on their shoulders, even when they shouldn't in some cases, who might be considered responsible for destruction not caused by them, caused by like their antagonists. So I want to tell a story of someone who very directly causes death and destruction and pain wherever he goes, but instead of rising to the occasion, just completely turns his back to it and even like is aloof in the face of it, who just doesn't care and can't give less of a fuck. And I thought, who fits that bill better than a teenage boy? And then from there, the ghosts, like surprisingly, ghosts and like the supernatural wasn't a part of the original story. That was the idea, and then it spread from there. I was like, okay, how does this person cause death and destruction wherever they go? And I really like the supernatural angle to it. I'm a big fan of horror. I'm a big fan of ghost stories, especially. And from there, the rest of the story just filled itself out, and the rest of the cast rounded itself out.
So does this teenage boy? You talked about an arc. You're gonna ride off into the sunset as an asshole, or does he?
I can't tell you that, but what I will say, and I think you start to see hints of it, in issue 2 and 3, is that he is the way he is because this is something he's been dealing with his entire life. He had to harden himself to the world when literally since you were a child, people have been dying around you and people have been telling you it's your fault. At a certain point, you either believe them and just crumble into yourself, or you harden and say, it's my fault and I don't care. So I think part of the journey of Haunting is Bram meeting our other lead, Faith, who is the project image for this, for issue 4 right now, who, I'd say she's very much a foil to him. She's has faith in everybody, whether they deserve it or not type. And because she puts her faith in him, pun intended with her name, of course, like it creates a relationship he's never had before, and I will say that, that's kind of the crux of the story as we go on, that interplay between the two of them. And does Bram deserve to be redeemed, even if he never actually wants to be? Can you be redeemed by somebody else's faith in you alone? And can you change because somebody else has faith in you? I don't know. I guess you'll have to read and say.
we're gonna find out in
109.
4 to 8 issues.
4 to 8 to 109 issues plus an
Yes.
issue.
You'll have to read every single one.
Oh, yeah.
You just never know when it's gonna pop
One
up.
issue is just going to be an Excel spreadsheet. You just turn the page.
I'm
Nice.
gonna maybe buy it.
That's the one I want.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
That's the collector's edition.
That's
There's only
gonna
like
go-
10 being sold.
That's going to go up in value.
Oh yeah, give me the new Walking Dead.
It may be a little bit too much, but an Excel variant cover.
Ooh, you think Microsoft will allow it?
Microsoft's going to foot the bill for it.
Oh.
You know, they say to niche down, but to niche down to the people that have seen Explain Yourself that Phil and Kat were on is really niche
I
down.
don't see a problem with that.
No,
I don't see a problem at all.
niche just means it's a
It
family.
means that people buying that cover are gonna want to spend the big bucks because
Oh, yeah.
they feel
Oh, yeah.
like they're
It'll
part of the experience.
It'll be the next stained glass because we have like between us 4 different stained glass variant covers in our
definitely
comics, so probably more.
course.
But I think the next series will be Excel every time. We'll just have this exact cover.
And there's no art. You don't have to pay any artists. It's just our budget.
We just give Microsoft a couple thousand.
Every writer on this chat just kind of like, ooh, no.
I like
AI artist.
Yes, we need artists, as Charlie said, to make us look good. So I guess we're going to continue paying the big bucks. But for just a second, you think, oh, and then you realize, no, I only make it because of Ludo, and Charlie makes it because of Connor, and
Well, who do you
Carl
think would
made
be
it
the
for
best
Matt.
artist?
Okay, guys, I
Not
actually have a suggestion for an alternative title for this show called the Looking Good podcast.
Yeah.
Because Looking Good seems to be such a theme around here. So
we're gonna make a subtitle. Explain Yourself, the Looking Good podcast.
That's right.
I like that. I like that. Will and I are gonna have to get on the treadmill a little more, though.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna have to start working out.
Maybe during the show.
I like that.
Yeah.
You just start sweating and panting halfway through.
Yeah.
So what's your book about?
So we are hitting the midnight hour. That's about when we start to kind of curl it in midnight hour where I am. I know some of you guys are just 9, but
That'd be a great
we're going to go
movie.
over some of the projects that are still live. Oh, Phil has the most affordable physical catch-up tier, and that's what I appreciate about you.
I like hearing that. Thank you.
Yeah. 4 issues. How much is the catch-up tier for 4?
It's $20 for the catch-up tier, so it works out to $5 an issue.
Yeah.
And you know, if you hate not spending money, we have a more expensive catch-up tier. You can go for it. You can catch up in style with our stained glass variant cover set. The price escapes me at the moment. I think it was somewhere between 50 and 60. But
you know what? If you can afford it, you don't have to ask.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, just pick the highest tier on the campaign and just pledge
Get
to
that collector's box.
Yeah, get those boxes.
Get the boxes. Get both.
Before we get to it, though, let's go back through just a real quick sampler of every project. And please, because this will be a podcast too, make sure that you tell people how to find your campaign. We'll go in the exact opposite order. Phil, let's do a 30-second reminder on Haunting.
Sure. So Haunting, teenage boy, wherever he goes, the dead rise, and he doesn't give a shit about it. We're 4 issues in. We've got a very affordable physical catch-up tier and also a digital catch-up tier. You could find it just, Haunting 4 on Kickstarter, or you can find it in my bio on Instagram and Twitter at Phil Falco Writes.
Nice. Cat, dancer.
The Dancer is about a dancer/assassin. And when she was little, she witnessed her parents being murdered in front of her and never dealt with that trauma until now. It's kind of like if Batman actually dealt with his shit.
And one thing we learned tonight is Kat was both a dancer and a martial artist.
And
she says,
so when you get the trivia question about Kat's life,
yeah,
then
this
then
is your
you'll win.
Slumdog Millionaire moment.
This is your Slumdog Millionaire moment.
Just remember, she's not a very good dancer, but she can kick your ass if you bring it up. Matt, let's talk about ThoughtScape.
ThoughtScape is an anthology series in the tradition of 2000 AD, The Twilight Zone, and Black Mirror, and folks can find it at zoop.gg or thoughtscapecomics.com. And yeah, we've got a wide variety of amazing artists for folks to check out if they pick up both issues.
Nice. Oh, and also there was the full Lifeform, which I did want to bring up. I read issue 1 when it came out with Scout Comics and gave it right to my daughter, and we both loved it and are excited to get the story as it comes out through Scout Comics. But I did notice you have some full issues on the Zoop that people could jump on it if they aren't as patient as me. So that's, I do want to recommend ThoughtScape as it's all ages, correct? The first issue seemed to be.
Yeah, Lifeform. Yeah.
Lifeform,
So
I'm sorry.
No problem. I've got the Lifeform graphic novel 2-pack that folks could pick up. So that's around 400 pages of Lifeform story and great art by Cassie Anderson there. It's close to my heart. So in whatever form people pick it up, whether they wait or not, I hope you dig it. And folks seem to really like it, everybody who checks it out. So
if you're patient, tell your local comic shop to order you Lifeforms, because I can promise it's a good book. Peter, we made Charlie talk about the Adept, so why don't we let you do one last reminder of what the Adept is.
Okay, so the Adept is the story of a broken young woman, Amy, who has these reoccurring dreams that she meets a Shaolin master who trains her at night, until one day she goes to an event and meets him for real, and is thrown on this global stage where she's not even sure she can do kung fu, and she has to save the day. So we're now returning with, after she kicks everybody's butt and realizes this was for real, now she has to deal with what comes with it. You know, she has to really step into this world of being a hero that she's not ready to, and that frankly doesn't want it. This is where the Adept 2 begins. So you can find us on Kickstarter as the Adept number 2.
I'm super excited because your cliffhanger in issue 1 had me salivating. So I'm very happy to finally find out what happens when they begin. Every project tonight has been fantastic. Thank you guys so much. So now you guys are sort of done talking, but you can jump in whenever you want, or you can jump off. This is where the show derails completely, because it's Will and I talking about the projects that have been on in the last couple weeks that are still live. And we have done our usual less than no prep for this part. So
that's true.
But we do bring it up, and we're going to bring yours while you're still live. So I'm going to go in and find the banners. And Toddler Apocalypse, George O'Connor's anthology. Good night, Peter. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good luck, everybody.
Bye.
Yeah, perfectly fine. If it's late where you are, or you're done, you can take off. But hang with us if you know anything about the books.
If a spreadsheet is in your future and you need to go see it,
we do have a spreadsheet, and also Dan's siblings trapped upstairs.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Good night, guys. All right, and then there were 4. Yeah. It's like 10 little Indians, but much faster. So Toddler Apocalypse, George O'Connor's anthology about basically apocalypses and how young children would make even the apocalypse more frustrating. It is a genius idea. If you're not on it, go to Kickstarter, Toddler Apocalypse. There's a hyphen, TODDLER hyphen POCALIPSE. Art's amazing, and the stories look really fun. One of which I remember the story was they've got to get on the rocket off of Earth before everyone dies, and the kid won't put on their shoes. And I was like, I'm sold. If you have had a child, you are sold on this book. And if you haven't had a child, you need to read this to find out if you want to have a child.
And there was a story of aliens invading, and if the kids could just keep quiet under the bed, they would be fine.
And our buddy Travis Gibb is doing the Granite St. Punk issue 1. It's actually issue 1, but it's a one-shot, one and done. It's the what's the name of the mountain? The Man in the Mountain, or Face in the Mountain?
Old
the Man in the Mountain. Oh, Charlie, you know about this because you're from the state. Okay, Charlie, you take over.
It's the old Man in the Mountain. It's an actual rock formation that looks like a giant old man's face in New Hampshire. When you have a state that small, That's what gets you excited. That and the witches that are in Travis's project. And this is a great book with killer art. And if you heard Travis talk about this, you can tell how passionate he is about this story and how much he believes in it. And I think anytime that a creator believes that much in the story, you know, you owe it to yourself, if you love comics, to pick it up, because you can tell this means something to him, and that passion always translates to the page.
Yeah, he said himself that, and he's never said this. I've talked to him about many of his projects. He's always excited about his project. He doesn't put out books that he isn't excited about. But he said, this is my best comic I've ever made. So it's really exciting to see him doing something he can be that excited about. Blake back to everything. Yes, you did win, and we appreciate it.
And your prizes will be coming in the mail in the coming months. There you go.
Yeah. Travis has been saying it's the best thing he's ever written. So he's not just saying it to one person, he's saying it to everybody. So we got to trust that. Rob Anderson's, this is for younger kids. It's Cat Dad and Super Mom #2. It's a story with morals at the end for little kids. A little kid kind of gets in situations and dreams at night to help him learn how to deal with them. The first issue is about bullying and whether or not to stand up for someone who's been bullied, and how you can do that when you look like a tattletale if you do. And the second issue is about an actor at a comic convention who might not have treated a kid very well. And kind of teaching little kids that there are other people behind comics and TV shows other than the actors, and they might treat you nicer because, you know what, we need the attention, an actor doesn't.
I think we got one more, right?
And Brian Hawkins, just about 30 hours, The Lunatic, the Lover, and the Poet. This is a slasher horror set at a college theater troupe is doing Midnight Summer's Dream. Unfortunately, Will, you want to say it?
The Puck Mask Killer. I just like saying Puck Mask.
The Puck Mask Killer starts to slay various actors and actresses in the play, and everyone's a suspect. It's a bit of a whodunit slasher scream type of a feel. It's 3 full issues for the story. This is issues 1 and 2, and you can catch up on it. Brian's just a hell of a great guy. You know, we've got some Scout creators on here. He writes Black Cotton for Scout. He edits for Mad Cave. He's, you know, just a hell of a dude, hell of a guy. So The Lunatic, the Lover, and the Poet issue 2 on Kickstarter.
Yep.
So
33 hours remaining. They've got about $500 left to hit the goal.
Oh, they got it. They got it.
I want to say one more thing about ThoughtScape, which, you know, and Matt, this is kudos to you, because I see a lot of, you know, I'll call it in the anthology range, where the art is so all over the place, and you've got like that one story that's the one you put on the website to show people, and the rest is filled with let's just sell what you say, ones that you don't want to put on the website to show people. And what I loved about the first issue of ThoughtScape, in addition to the writing, you know, I guess someone wrote it, but in addition to the writing, the caliber of the art of that is so good. It's just across the board, and that every single story feels like it could be its own series, because you put the thought behind it of finding a really talented, artist who not only understands storytelling, but just has a great style. And so I was just really blown away and impressed by the caliber of the art, throughout that. It's obvious you do great projects. I mean, across the board, but I just thought that I really was impressed by that.
Well, thanks. Yeah. I mean, like a big part of it was coming from I was just seeing so many amazing folks that I also seem to be able to get in touch with. And, so just my backlog of folks I want to reach out to because they're incredible. And I've got a story at least outlined for them is pretty vast. So, and I guess I keep running into the thing where it's so hard to just get comics done that the thought of getting one done with art that I don't want to share every page of is just, a little painful to think of, So but no, I appreciate it. I think it's a killer group. Like I feel totally lucky to have connected with everybody that I have, and I hope there's.
And I also think, I mean, and bringing it back to the writer, because I guess the writer was involved. I think that the fact that all those artists want to work with you, says something about the caliber of the writing, the caliber of the project, because those are all really good artists, and who have the choice to work on other things, and they're working on ThoughtScape because they want to work with you. And I know, like Carl, for instance. He's one of those people who mostly wants to do his own thing right now. So the fact that he's taking time away from doing his own projects to work with you speaks volumes.
Oh, thank you.
And I'll give you another compliment. I had the same type of brain buzz after reading this that I get from Ryan K. Lindsay. And you just kind of this sort of like, oh, this is on a different plane, and I got to get out of my plane to get to your plane. And kind of my temples kind of nice. And if a writer or writer-artist team can do that, I know I'm in good hands, and I got that out of ThoughtScape. So
cool. That's great. No, I mean, like I grew up reading like Grendel and all the like Mark Verheiden stuff in the 80s and everything, and like it's just and I go back to Grendel a lot, just in terms of like building a world, but a lot of artists and something dense. And like when I was too young, 11 or 12, reading Grendel and just having my mind blown about like, I don't know, the Vatican and Grendel and all vampire, like all that stuff. It's just like, I just want like to be able to like kind of hopefully achieve some small fraction of that is totally what I'm going for. So that's great to hear.
Plus, that was not approved by the Comic Code Authority, right?
No.
And at 11 and 12, I know for me, when I stumbled across the comics that weren't approved, my parents didn't know I was reading them, and I was very happy about it.
Yes.
It's so
in
funny.
addition to it being a good book.
Yes.
Yeah. When I kind of, people ask what I aspire to be as a comic creator, what I say is, I aspire for Tart to mean what Grendel and Mage meant to me when I was 14. That's my aspiration. For the book to mean to someone else what those two things mean to me. Because, I look back and yes, like it started with Claremont, Alan Moore, Miracle Man, all these things. But that Grendel and Mage, what Matt Wagner did with those two series, it just means it's a foundational part of my comic reading. So
for sure. I mean, I was like, since we're Grendeling, we were at Emerald City 2019. Would that have been the last one that I went?
I think so.
The one before, and
the one before what must not be named.
That much was spoken of.
Because if you say it 3 times, it lasts for 3 more years.
Oh my God. I feel like it's just never going to end already. So I was there with Cassie for Lifeform stuff, and Cassie was on a panel with Matt Wagner, and I was totally like, I was both jealous because it was a artist who also write, and I obviously I didn't belong on that panel, but I was a little bit jealous, and then and so I walked over to his booth, and I had my Devil by the Deed like Kamiko trade or whatever you call it. I don't know. It was a graphic novel, I guess, essentially. And so I was going to get him to sign that, and he showed me. He's just like, "Oh, like you want to see some art from the Grendel in Space, whatever the one is going now." And so I'm at a con with Matt Wagner showing me Grendel art that nobody's seen on his phone. It's like, all right, anything else can happen. This was the pinnacle. So
I do want to say Ignacio is glad to hear that we are Grendeling. Well, one thing I want to tell everybody is we're not just Grendeling, we are breakneck fantasy anthologying next week. It doesn't quite work. So
you got it there.
A little bright.
Next week, we are going to be talking about an anthology, The Breakneck Fantasy, black and white sword and sorcery comics that I know Ignacio has a part in, and hopefully if he can make it, we'd love to actually see and hear you and not just read your wonderful words. And also Gerald Von Carr, I believe, will be joining us. So next week, we should be checking that anthology out. But if you have time to check out the black and white sword and sorcery anthology, Breakneck, on Kickstarter before next week, we'd love you to do that. And then we can pretend that the Kickstarter bump started at
A week
February.
earlier.
You know what? I'm going to say February 4th because Charlie, I know you're still
It's still
on
9/18 here.
Friday.
Yeah. But, you know, like I was like, there's something wonderful about being able to meet your heroes in comics in a way that you can't really do that in other, mediums, because people are just more accessible. I feel like the comic creating community and even the gods of comics. Like for me, my hero was Will Eisner. Like I had gotten a bunch of the old Warren EC Spirit things from the 70s, and I had like 10 of them. And when I was in college, like that was that's who I wanted to be. I wanted to be Will Eisner. I had my own strip that I was inking, and I thought I'm going to be a writer inker, maybe at Marvel. I interned at Marvel. And then I moved out to California, and a couple of years after that, I went out to San Diego Comic-Con for my first big con. And Will Eisner was there and doing a panel. But this was back when you could get into a panel at San Diego. And really there were, I think, 10 people at this Will Eisner panel, which just blew my mind at the time. And then they all left. And Will Eisner was packing up his stuff. And I was like, I'm just going to say something to him. And he spent like 20 minutes talking to me afterwards just about comics and everything. And I'm like, this is the guy the Eisner Awards are named after, my childhood comic book hero, and we're talking. And I think, when you talk about wanting to be the Grendel to someone, I want to be that creator at a convention who talks to someone whose their works means. I don't even necessarily want, I want the work to mean something, but I want to be that person who's accessible for a fan at a convention who my work has touched in some way. Because I think, this is an industry where we can do that, where we can help other creators. But, I've started to have that experience because, you have that at Kickstarter, but then when you start going out into the direct market, it's a different type of fans, and you're reaching people in more places in the country. So like on Free Comic Book Day, I had someone come up who had all the White Ashes I had written in like one of those protective cases. And he was wondering if I would sign one. And I was like, I'll sign anything you have, for me, that's the best part about being a creator is when you can connect with someone and say, I'm so glad you read my story. I'm glad it meant something to you. And I'd love to talk to you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
No, I agree. And my goal at a convention is for half the people I talk to have already read the book and I don't sell them anything. As opposed to 90% of the people, hi, give me 2 seconds. I'm going to show you this awesome book that you might like, which is great and fun. And you meet people. But I so much more enjoy talking about a book someone's already read than pitching the book, because then you're having a conversation and you're not just trying to, push. But it's great.
At Ontario, a couple of weeks ago, back in, maybe about a month ago, this young woman came up to me and I started pitching her White Ash, and she's like, "Oh no, I know White Ash." She's like, "What else do you have?" I was like, what have you written that I haven't read yet? And I was like, this is the best day ever. You're a fan of my work. You want to buy things. I don't have to tell you. Like, she just wanted to see what in my universe she hadn't read that she could pick up.
That's beautiful.
That's very cool. Yeah.
Well, so much of what we do is kind of, it feels like we're pitching all the time, and to have somebody come up and just want to thank you, is so gratifying. I mean, it's just the best thing ever,
Yeah.
Maybe even better than art emails, but
Something pretty nice to read is Ignacio says, what Kevin, Will, and every guest does with Explain Yourself help Gerald and him put it together and do the anthology on Kickstarter.
Nice.
Whatever wind we may have been at your back, we are extraordinarily happy to have provided. And we do completely joke about the Explain Yourself bump. We take no credit. You did it. You put together teams. You did the work. You know, like you made your comic. You're on Kickstarter because you put the effort in. And so, yes, we love it if we helped at all, but we really don't take any credit, and we can't wait until next week to hear more about the nuts and bolts.
And more importantly, they probably listen to other people besides us.
Yes, they should.
and Matt, I also want to again give you kudos for trying out Zoop, because I know like that's a little scary to go there. I know it's really hard to try and be the person who's breaking new ground on that platform. I have a guess behind some of your reasons for doing that, and I commend you for that. So
thanks.
So good. I wish you only the best with that, because it's a great project, and hopefully again everyone who's here has backed it.
That'd be like Kevin was saying, like I feel like ultimately we need to have some like modularity and be able to go, like if we're really going to survive long term, we've got to be healthy, I feel like, in multiple, I guess, markets, for lack of a better term, or multiple sites or platforms, whatever. So but thanks. It's been I mean, definitely a little bit scary and a little bit different experience, but just take whatever learning I can get and try to make the best of it. So,
and let us know if that last day and a half to 2 days is super heavy, because it really may be what Charlie said, where that fear of missing out maybe hasn't hit the people yet, and then they're going to realize, oh, I've got to do this, and
I think it's also it's hard because Kickstarter has on a slow day it has 120 projects going. On a busy day there's 300 comic book projects going, and new people coming to the platform all the time. And every time someone new has come, Kickstarter's eternal algorithm is pumping up your project to them if it seems like it might be a fit. And because Zoop doesn't have that kind of bandwidth yet, it's really more dependent on you to bring backers to the platform. And like this, like I said earlier, I had been retweeting, but I just hadn't gotten around to like saying, I was like, because I went to do it once. I was like, oh, I got to do an account. I don't know how long that's going to take. I'll do that later.
When a friend of mine or a book that I think is extraordinarily exciting is on Indiegogo, I have to remember it when I get home to go on my computer, to go to Indiegogo, find the campaign, and back it. Kickstarter, I joke about trying to be number one, but it's usually because I'm scrolling through Twitter, laughing at a meme, and then my phone comes up and says, Will Allred has launched a project. And then I get in there to try to be number one, just so I can make fun of everybody else, because it's so easy.
Totally.
And we need to
and that's something else I noticed about Zoop was, I'm so used to, if I back a campaign in Kickstarter, the first thing I do is I tweet about it, right? Because they've got that stuff integrated right there that just makes it so easy to help, boost campaigns. And I was like, okay, I backed it. What do I do now? There's no button. I have to go type something. Oh, can't do that.
No, I mean, I think there's definitely there's plenty that I do UX actually for my day job too. So I spend all day thinking about websites and apps. And getting them to work right. And that, I think definitely that rub of where they were curating things and running everything themselves up against the self-service thing. There's just some definite stuff that just comes with evolution, and Kickstarter's had a long time. And I would say I've been involved in a few different things where I've seen up front how hard it is to build a new community, even if people are bought into the concepts, whether you're talking about politics or comics or bands or any of that. So I think that stuff just takes time, and like
Mhm.
Kickstarter's been there for quite a while, and there's going to be catch up ground, right? And
Yeah.
I think it's like, to me, it's especially frustrating because, you know, there was a lot of noise on the internet, especially on Twitter, about Kickstarter's direction. And I wish all the people who were as outspoken about not liking the direction would go support things on Zoop.
Mhm.
Right.
which
You know,
is,
like, because
sure, yeah,
right. You know, like they're happy to bash down, you know, to dump on Kickstarter, but they're not happy to go just support the things that would make the other platform more viable.
yes,
Like if you
yes.
really
Right.
want to do something, don't waste all your time tearing down Kickstarter. Go build this other thing up, make it a viable alternative so you can actually have what you want. Like there's a
Totally.
solution there. Like
Yep,
there's a
yep.
real actionable path that you can take to have that utopia you want, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah, no, it's, I mean, it's the internet in a nutshell, right? Like it's
Yeah.
it's way easier to fire away than it is to actually get behind your stuff. So
I can say for me personally, I would not have any career in comics if it was not for Kickstarter specifically, much less crowdfunding.
sure.
It has kept us alive and kept us moving forward, and so I don't ever want to bash that. I certainly will never bash a creator who is on Kickstarter because it is the way to stay alive, living this dream. If you are worried about the we haven't really kind of ever talked about it on this, but you know, if you know what's going on and are mad, then you know, and you should be supporting Matt and all of the creators on Zoop and building a safe haven so that people have the choice to make a decision that you might want. But you can't ask people not to continue their career.
totally, yeah. And all this stuff, like anytime this comes up, it's like this is a totally personal decision
Yeah.
for everybody, and like this is you know, I've got a viable career in other matters or doing other things, and so I have the flexibility, I guess, to with juggling, like continue to at least make comics, if not get them printed, without and you know, make decisions like this. So, but it's totally everybody's got to make their own call on this stuff, and like nobody's calculation is going to be the same.
Right.
You know, it's you know, it's a personal thing for sure, and like there's, you know, I'm not going to stop backing at least my pals on Kickstarter, and I've seen a couple things tonight that I want to grab. So so it's just it's,
well, because like at the end of the day,
we got to support everybody.
let's just say, like, I mean, like, just taking a big step back, even if you don't support the platform, right? Like, even if you have some intrinsic issues with Kickstarter, the percentage of revenue of Kickstarter that comes from comics is infinitesimal, right?
Yeah.
And you know, and the percentage that they get of the money that you're sending to your friend who's on Kickstarter is also so small. So like your protest dollars, if you're not protesting, like if you're not putting in $10,000 into the tech project, right? Like if that's the protest that you're not doing, but instead you're not putting $3 or $10 into the PDF or the, you know, I think of that creator who needs those $3,000 to make their book. Like to me, like I think creators who are creating need to make that decision based on what they need to do to survive. It's a decision that, in terms of the platform itself, we don't even know what's going to happen. Because like going back to UI, I mean, you probably have seen Kickstarter for a while and know how slow they are to be able to implement anything on the development side. So like, I think, you know, they could do this, or they could not do this, or they could plan to do this, and it could take 10 years based on how quickly the changes have rolled out. So I think, you know, from a creator's perspective, you don't have to make a hard decision right now, because it's at least another year, 2 years before any of these things that people are worried about hit the platform. And in the interim, please support creators wherever they are. If you like their work, you know, I don't care if you're worried about Comicsgate on Indiegogo or whatever. If the creator that you know who is not part of that thing is on that platform, give them money, because you're not really giving it to the platform. You're giving, again, to be clear, I'm not saying support Comicsgate. I'm
Yeah.
saying don't. You know, I just want to be very clear with that sound.
This is a safe space for people who are on Indiegogo because they choose that as their platform. It's not necessarily a safe space for people who attack diverse creators who are just trying to tell their stories.
Yep.
Right. But my point is support good creators wherever they are who are making good books, because they need that support, and whatever percentage that's going to, you know, the corporate overlord, whoever it is so small. It doesn't make a huge difference to the corporate overlord, but it makes a huge difference to that creator.
I agree. I'm going to do one thing as we go. Blake's Buzz from the Blake's Buzz podcast. He's been with us many of these Friday nights. I'm putting it out here, Blake. If you're free next week, why don't you come on and help us talk about the Breakneck anthology?
Yeah.
Put it out. It is a public invite. You can come if you can come if you're free.
Matt, you were on Blake's show, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't come, it's a public snub now. So, you know,
Yeah,
we'll have to go cry.
we're just going to be crying for the first 40 minutes.
He's in.
It's a date.
All right, awesome.
All right, that is how we're gonna go out. We've got two of our commenters coming on next week, and we're gonna have a blast. Charlie, Matt, thank you so much for hanging with us till the I would say the bitter end, but I thought it was pretty sweet. So
Triumphant end.
Yes, to the triumphant end, and to Kat, Phil, and Peter who were with us earlier. Thank you so much for your time. It was a fabulous show. I don't think we had too much awesome. I think we had the exact amount of awesome. Oh, well.
Sounds good to me, man.
All right. Fist bump. Everybody have a great night. Thank you.
All right, thanks. See you later.